Hello, folks. I am Trevor Welsh, and I thank you for tuning in to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Fort Worth District's podcast, Life is Better at the Lake, the only podcast that brings you all the greatness and splendor of our 25 lakes across the great state of Texas. As always, this podcast is made possible by the U.S. Armed Forces service members, whose bravery and sacrifice allow you to listen to this and other great podcasts whenever, wherever, and however you want. To get the full effect, you can watch my guest and I interact on the YouTube version of this podcast. But if you're in a car, or at the gym, or you just don't like seeing my face, subscribe to this podcast on SoundCloud and Apple Podcasts so you'll be notified when each monthly episode is published. Details will be in the description. Also, feel free to send comments to public.affairs@usace.army.mil. Now, sit back and get ready to learn why life is better at the lake. Today we're here with Rob Jordan. He's the lake manager for Lewisville Lake and Ray Roberts. Rob, why don't you tell me a little bit about what your job entails?
Well, as the lake manager here, I'm responsible for the day-to-day operations at Lewisville and Ray Roberts Lakes, and that involves a lot of different aspects.
Before we get into that, why don't you tell me what you did before you were a lake manager?
Okay. Well, my career with the Corps of Engineers started back in 2001 while I was in college. I actually began working for the Corps as a seasonal summer ranger at Lake Texoma. Worked 2 summers there while I was in college, and I found out about that because I was a major in wildlife conservation and was in the biology building one day and saw a flyer that the Corps of Engineers was looking for seasonal help. And my original career plans were to be a Texas game warden. And I thought, well, being a park ranger for the Corps of Engineers would fit right into that and look really good on a resume. So I applied for that along with about 20 other folks there in the college there. And they picked a handful of us to be summer rangers. And I did that for 2 summers and then was looking to try to get on permanently with the Corps because after working 2 summers, I kind of liked what the Corps had to offer and thought it would be a good career choice. So I was able to get into a program that at the time was called the co-op program, which is where you were going to school and working and they would work around your college hours. And then once you graduated, you could be placed into a position. And I did that and worked at Lake Lavon over near Wiley, Texas for about 4 or 5 years as a park ranger over there.
That's another Fort Worth District lake?
That is another Fort Worth District lake. And that's where I started in Fort Worth District. Was a ranger there for about 4 or 5 years, and then while I was there, decided to take the next career step and did a developmental assignment in the Fort Worth District office in the real estate division. And while I was doing that developmental assignment, they had vacancies there for a realty specialist. I decided, okay, this would help me move up in the Corps of Engineers and be good for my career path. So I decided to take that role and worked as a realty specialist in Fort Worth for a couple of years. And in that role, that's where I learned about how the Corps outgrants land and leases land and does easements. So
there's a lot of land out here at Lewisville.
There's a lot of it. And we can talk about more of that in detail later. But, learned kind of the ins and outs of the leasing and easement process. And that helped me to get to my next role, which was to be lake manager here. And I've been the lake manager here at Lewisville since November of 2010.
So you, out of anybody at this office, probably know most about this lake.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say that. We have some people in this office that have been here longer than me.
Oh, really?
And yes, we have some people that work here that have been here twice as long as I have.
Wow.
And I rely on them heavily for historical knowledge and any kind of day-to-day questions.
Sounds like you got a good team out here.
We do have a good team. And, being here almost 10 years now, I have become familiar with a lot of the lake. And of course, it's so much land and so much water area that we cover. When you combine Lewisville and Ray Roberts, there's still a lot of areas that, I haven't been able to get to yet to see.
It's looking at it right now. It's a giant giant lake.
It is.
It's massive.
Lewisville is about 29,000 surface acres of water when it's at conservation pool. And we have another 16,000 or so acres of land around that we manage. And then in addition to that, the Corps has another about 5,000 acres of easement on private property to store floodwater.
I was working with another a project manager engineer, Albert Rice, and he is overseeing the dam safety modification program. So I've been up here. It's fourth or fifth time I've been up here in the last couple of weeks, and he took me out to what they call the borrow pit, which basically what they're doing is this for those of you who don't, they're I guess in layman terms shoring up the dam at Lewisville. They're taking a lot of soil and putting it up against the parts of the dam that are already there to just to make it safer. And he took me out there where they're bringing mud from the borrow pit, and it's like, I forget the number he said, but they're digging down 10 feet, and that area out there is like the size of 10 football fields. Like they're putting a lot of soil out there.
Yeah, that's in the project you're talking about is the dam safety modification study repairs, and that's where they're going to be stabilizing the embankment of the dam. There's been some areas where they're trying to control the amount of water that seeps through the dam, and they're going to be putting an inverted filter and a berm there, and that's where they're going to be getting that material from, is that borrow area. So yes, that's a project that will be ongoing for the next couple of years.
Yeah, that dam is 5 miles long.
I believe when this dam was built that this was the longest earthen embankment west of the Mississippi. Now, that may not be true anymore, but it's actually 6 miles long.
I've driven across the top of it a couple of times, and it's like, holy cow, we're still on the dam. Tell me, Rob, since you don't like reading.
Didn't say I don't like it. I just don't do a lot of it.
I don't either. You said you do watch YouTube. What do you watch on YouTube?
Well, I'm a do-it-yourselfer. I have a lot of hobbies, and I like to try a lot of different things. So it could be anything from a woodworking video to oil painting techniques.
Okay. All right. That's a pretty big spectrum.
Yeah, it's diverse. I like to try my hand at a lot of different things. I at one point had a taxidermy business that I did on the side. So,
really?
Yeah.
He took me to his office, and there's a mountain there with only one antler on it.
I can explain that. A lot of people ask me about that. And so white-tailed deer, that's one of my favorite subjects to enjoy in the outdoors is deer hunting and white-tailed deer. And, over the last few years, I've gotten more into finding shed deer antlers. So if you don't know, white-tailed deer drop their antlers every year and they regrow a new set. Well, usually they're bigger than each year as they progress. And then, as that deer gets older, then sometimes they get smaller, older in life, but they drop them every year and regrow them. So the fact that I like finding those sheds, I thought, well, I'm going to do a mount that shows a deer that just shed one of its antlers. So I actually did that mount in there. That was one of my competition pieces that I entered in a convention here in Texas.
A convention for what?
A taxidermy competition and convention.
No way.
Yes. So that was 4 or 5 years ago. But
that's okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive. That's pretty impressive because I grew up in the Midwest, and my family then and now still hunt deer. My cousin is a bow hunter, and he's got 2 boys, teaching them how to hunt. But I never really understood how you make a mount. How does that done? Like, I know you don't use the real eyes or real fur, or I don't.
It is the real fur.
It's
the real hide. So the only thing on that mount that's actually real is the hide. The antlers you see in there were replicas that I actually made. They're not even real antlers, but
replicas.
Replica
So
deer
you
antlers.
got to cast them, paint them.
I made a mold of them and hand painted them. Yes, I have over 100 hours in that particular mount.
Wow.
So, but yeah, the only thing real is the fur, and then antlers on a normal mount would be real. But all the inside is foam and glass eyes, so it's all artificial materials.
That's an interesting. I mean, that and mortician are like, how do you get into something like that? Well, I guess everybody's got their passion. Some people would think hosting a podcast is weird. So speaking of hunting, tell me about the hunting opportunities out at the lands around the lakes.
Okay, so of course, being a federal agency, we have a lot of public land here. And I mentioned we had about 16,000 acres of land around this lake. Well, some of that is designated as hunting land, public hunting land. And here at Lewisville, we give out 600 permits for hunters each year. And they're on a first come, first served basis. We start giving those out on August 15th, which is the day that hunting licenses go on sale. So we usually have a line out the door that day for people to get hunting permits. Now, in addition to that, we do have some special hunts that we conduct out here. And I know you got to participate and come out and visit with us for the most recent one we had.
Yep, that was pretty awesome.
We do a special disabled youth deer hunt, and we partner with the National Wild Turkey Federation and Texas Parks and Wildlife. And we conduct that in an area here that's a controlled wildlife management area.
That's over by the LURF. For people that don't know what the LURF is, what's the LURF?
Well, LURF is the Lewisville Aquatic Ecosystem Research Facility, which is also part of the Corps, but it's a separate office out of Vicksburg District, and they have a laboratory there. But it's the old state fish hatchery here at the dam.
Yeah, that was pretty cool out there. Those watching those kids. I was only out there for one day, but I found out they ended up bringing in 11.
We worked with Parks and Wildlife to get some special tags under the Managed Lands Deer permit system, and we had the opportunity that they could take up to 15 deer, and they took 11. So it was a very successful. It not only allowed them to get a harvest, but allowed us to help reach our management goals.
It was pretty. Yeah, that was awesome. The National Wild Turkey Federation are really passionate about that.
They are, and that partnership has been very successful. They've not only helped us there, but they've helped us at Ray Roberts with some new access points and parking areas, and it's been a good partnership with them.
Now you've had somebody tell me who came out and built wheelchair accessible blinds.
Yes. So as part of this hunt, we actually started it as a wounded warrior hunt several years ago. And of course, we needed some blinds for the hunters to sit in. So we worked with a local Eagle Scout who was doing a project, and he built us 3 wheelchair accessible hunting blinds, and we still use them today. They're still in great shape. He did a good job on the project, and it's been very beneficial to us. And when they're not used as hunting blinds, they're used as wildlife viewing blinds, and they get more use than just that one hunt a year.
And they got, isn't there an area over by the spillway that they use for ornithology? They've got a bird viewing platform out there in the grasslands.
Yes. So the area below the dam is actually in a lease to a group that's comprised of the University of North Texas, the city of Lewisville, and Lewisville Independent School District. And they do, primarily UNT does a lot of research out there. The other groups bring school kids and do outdoor education, but they do have a platform they've built for bird watching, and they do stargazing out there and different kinds of events.
That's rad. That's really cool.
It's one of the few areas here in the Metroplex where you can actually be within all of the urban sprawl, surrounded by millions of people, but in this particular location, you're probably about as far away from a human as you could be, and still be in Dallas Fort Worth.
It's a hidden gem out there. It's now, do people can people access that, or is that special access?
That viewing platform is probably special access, and you'd need to coordinate it with the folks at Leela, and it's usually used during some of their special events.
Okay. It's nice out there. Tell me about, now, I think maybe a lot of people don't understand the partnership that's involved with local and state agencies when it comes to maintaining what everybody loves about the lake, the parks and the campgrounds. So tell me a little bit about what goes into making sure those are well kept and accessible.
Okay. So here at Lewisville, there's 21 recreation areas, parks, boat ramps, that kind of thing. The majority of those over the years have actually been leased out to local cities, and we partner with local cities to manage those. So for example, like here at Lewisville, the closest one right across from the office here is Lewisville Lake Park, and the city manages that. And we still work with them, hand in hand on different development. When they want to do something new in the park, they come and talk to us, and we still oversee it and do inspections in there and that kind of thing. But here locally, we do manage a campground that the Corps runs at Hickory Creek Park. We have several other boat ramps and day use parks, and that is continual maintenance. We have staff that are always out there in the parks trying to make sure things are working properly, and whether it be a campsite where the pedestal threw a breaker, or we've got a plumbing leak or something, we're always having to fix something. It's continual.
You said 25 parks and campgrounds?
I think 21.
21, okay.
Mm-hmm. Here at Lewisville.
And how many personnel do you have working here at the lake office?
I have a staff of 6 park rangers, and then I have a civil engineering tech, which kind of oversees minor maintenance, and then I have a maintenance worker, and then I have an admin.
Okay, so for those of you who might not be good at ratios, that's not enough people to take care of 21 parks, which is precisely why you partner with.
That's exactly why we lease them out, because the Corps determined throughout the years that sometimes it's better to lease it out to a local partner that can provide a better, more quality recreational opportunity for the public.
Makes 100% sense. So stop messaging me on Facebook about the parks, because it's not my responsibility. I'm just kidding. Please do continue to message me, and then you know what I'll do is I'll pawn it off to Rob here. He can take care of it. Okay, so tell me about the people that man the gates at the campground facilities. Are they federal employees?
No, okay. They are not. And different lakes do it different ways. Typically, those are under a contract.
Okay.
So we will put out a notice for bid, and people can bid on those to work as a contract gate attendant. And they're required to be in those gate shacks so many hours per day, and they have designated shifts. And that's how we take care of that. In instances when we can't get a contract worker, sometimes it will be a volunteer. We have volunteer opportunities where, let's say you have a retired couple that's full-time RVers, and they want to be able to stay 6 months at a certain area and then move on. They can enter into a volunteer agreement with us and work different kinds of volunteer labor here at the park to help us maintain things.
That's exactly what's going on over, this is right over here at the entrance to the spillway fishing area and the trails and the canoe launch out there.
Yes.
Those volunteers are staying right there next to the gate in their RVs.
Those are volunteers that work for the city of Lewisville, but that's typical of what we would have in our park as well.
All right, we're going to take a short break. We'll be back in just a little bit. We're here at Lewisville Lake. We're at Lewisville Lake, but we're at the office that manages Lewisville Lake and Ray Roberts, and we're talking here with Rob Jordan, the lake manager. We'll be back in just a little bit. All right, welcome back to Life is Better at the Lake. I'm your host, Trevor Welsh, and I'm here with Rob Jordan, the manager for Lewisville Lake, and Ray Roberts. All right, Rob, tell me a little bit about what a park ranger is and what they do. First of all, what are they actually called? What's their job title?
Their actual job title is Natural Resource Specialist.
Okay.
So, I think one of the big misconceptions the public has about Corps park rangers is sometimes they get the attribute that they're law enforcement officers when technically they're not. They enforce Corps regulations. They do have the ability to write citations, but they are not law enforcement, whereas they could like detain or take someone to jail or arrest someone. They are strictly out there to enforce regulations set forth in Title 36, which are the rules and regulations that govern Corps property.
So they're stewards.
They're stewards of the land. They are a jack of all trades. I mean, being a park ranger, you have to be very flexible on what your skills and abilities are, and you have to be able to go from one day being in an office doing some kind of paperwork, writing a letter to a landowner, filling out a form, to the next day being out possibly on a tractor, putting in a food plot somewhere, or being able to drive a patrol vessel on the lake and conduct water safety patrol. The list goes on and on. They are the ones that are the face of the Corps out here. They interact with the public day in and day out. We might get a phone call about something going on Corps property, and they have to respond to it and check into it and find out what's going on, because we're responsible for all the boundary around the lake. So they go check on a lot of boundary issues, encroachments. And here, being in an urban area, that's one of the big challenges we face here at Lewisville, is the number of encroachments from adjacent landowners. We have in the neighborhood of 10,000 landowners around this lake.
Wait, explain what that means, encroachment.
Okay, an encroachment would be when someone is conducting an unauthorized activity or using Corps property in a manner that they've not been given permission.
And that could even be mowing the Corps property next to their land.
A lot of what we deal with is vegetation removal, tree cuttings. Some of those can get very, very pricey on the value of damage that's done, especially if you're in one of our environmentally sensitive areas that we've got classified to where that habitat's high value, and people go in there and want a view of the lake and cut trees down. And I can understand wanting a view, but it's federal land, and we're here to protect that.
Right.
And
speaking of that, you had recently, last week or a couple weeks ago, a couple of your park rangers tilled up a plot of land and planted seed that is eventually going to become a feeding ground for the local population of birds.
They did,
to enhance the ecosystem.
Yes, we had a couple of our rangers that were working on a native food plot, and we don't want to introduce some kind of seed species that's going to grow an exotic plant or something that would take over and destroy the ecosystem. So we try to use native species, and they were using a native seed mix that had various things in it, like Illinois bundleflower and partridge pea and some native Texas things that are good for turkeys and quail and that kind of thing.
And that is just one example of why it's important that people within the Corps of Engineers should be the ones responsible for the Corps lands. And that sort of brings into perspective why simply just mowing a section of Corps land next to your property could be a very bad thing.
It could be. The primary reason we're here is for flood risk management and downstream flood protection. So the reservoir needs to be able to rise and fall, and we need to be able to store floodwaters. And when someone comes onto Corps property and mows down the vegetation and makes it look like a manicured lawn, a lot of times what they don't realize is the root structure of that grass then becomes shorter. So
you got erosion.
It creates erosion. If the lake then comes up and rises 5 or 10 feet, it's more prone to erosion in those locations. Whereas if they had left it with some native plants, some blue stem, some kind of range plants that have longer root structures, you're protecting yourself, So that's why we're real concerned about when people remove vegetation.
Makes sense. So you were talking about flood risk management, which, if you guys didn't know, the Fort Worth district was established in 1949 after some major floods hit the Fort Worth area. If you've ever been downtown Fort Worth, there's there's a building called Montgomery Plaza, and the water was almost up to the third story of that building. So the Corps of Engineers became established in order to partner with the state and local agencies to develop the floodplains and spillways and you name it, dams. So that's what Rob was talking about, and he's going to get a little bit more into some of what people might see as negative side effects when it comes to flood risk management. So tell me what that's all about.
Well, we get a lot of people that will call our office when we're either holding a lot of flood water and not making release, or if we're releasing water in the summer for some reason. And people a lot of times will question the motives on, why are they making a release right now, or why are they not making one? And a lot of people don't realize that the water rights in Lewisville Lake are actually owned by the cities of Dallas and Denton. So if you could picture the lake being like a bowl or a bathtub, the Corps doesn't own the water until it gets into what we call flood pool. So conservation pool, or what a lot of people would call normal pool here at Lewisville, is elevation 522. So if it's at 522 or below, it's Dallas and Denton's water. We only make a release if they request it. And sometimes they will. Sometimes the lake might be 3 or 4 feet low in the summer, and Dallas needs drinking water, so they might request that we make a minor release so that they can pull it out downstream for drinking purposes, which that's why the lake, one of the missions of why the lake was congressionally authorized, was water supply.
Yes, and if you didn't know, of the 25 lakes that the Corps manages, that provides 1/3 of the entire state of Texas's drinking water. So what Rob's explaining right now is extremely important. And what he just told you, I didn't know, but it makes sense why sometimes people don't understand why they're opening the.
Yeah, we get angry people in the summer whenever their backyard, the lake's just dropping and dropping, and they don't understand why we're making a release. Well, it's because it's been requested by the owner of the water. Now, in the other instance where it's above 522, it's above that conservation pool, it's in our flood pool, sometimes we'll have to hold it. And a lot of people will call up and say, well, the lake's backing up, it's getting close to my property, you need to let water out. Well, it's all about what's going on downstream.
Right.
So we have to wait until certain gauges in the Trinity River system have reached a certain threshold to where we can make a safe release. And all of those releases are actually determined by our Fort Worth district office. We have the hydrologist there in the water management section. They are the ones that determine when we make releases. So they will call out here to the office and say, hey, we need you to do a release at this rate, and we make that happen.
Right. So thanks for that. That really sheds some light on something that people might think is inconvenient for them. But hopefully y'all understand now. So like I said, stop messaging me on Facebook. No, so you've been doing this for quite some time. You've been involved in the Corps of Engineers and been around this area for a while, and that has to be for good reason. So tell me one of your most memorable times working for the Corps of Engineers. Don't think too long. We're on air.
Well, there's a lot of memorable moments. I could probably most rewarding. It's probably working with the youth hunters that you got to experience with me. That's probably one of the most rewarding, is getting to provide an opportunity for some, disabled youth hunters that they wouldn't otherwise get. Other rewarding experiences, I could think back to when I was a ranger, and one time I stopped a group of younger 18 to 20-year-old kids that were getting ready to go out on a boat. They didn't all have life jackets, and I pretty much told them, you can't go out unless you all get life jackets, or, we'd have to issue a citation or whatever. Well, they complied, and they went and bought a couple of life jackets at the store up the road. Well, about 3 hours later, we got a call, and they had been in an accident on the lake in the vessel, and one of them had broken their leg, and a couple of them had gotten thrown into the water. So that was rewarding to know that, the efforts there paid off.
People think about going out on a lake as recreation, and safety is just like when you get out on the road and you put your seatbelt on. It's like it should be a second thought. Putting a life jacket on should be the same as putting a seatbelt on.
I would want every one of my rangers on water safety patrol to put that as a priority, that if they come in contact with anyone on the lake, that they need to make sure there's enough life jackets for everyone on board that vessel. And not only that, but that they're wearing it, because we have drownings out here, unfortunately, almost every year, multiple drownings usually. And very rarely do those occur if someone's wearing that life jacket.
Tell me about something recently that happened that really reminds you, this is what I was born to do. This is where I was born to work. Something happened recently that's, God, there's nothing else I'd rather be doing other than the youth hunt.
The thing I like about the job is it's you come into work and no 2 days are ever the same.
Okay.
I like that aspect of it. I like the ability to not only be able to work in an office setting, but also be out and check on our facilities and see what's going on out there outdoors. You know, I'm an outdoors type person. I was raised hunting and fishing, and that's kind of how I got into all this, is my background there. I wanted to do something in the outdoors. And when I come in and see that we're having an impact on natural resources and getting to experience the outdoors and make it better for others, it's rewarding. It's a rewarding career to have.
Tell me about, before we finish this up here, tell me about maybe some stuff you got coming up in the future that people would want to know about.
Okay. Well, currently a couple of projects we've got going on. We are in the final stages of our master plan update here at Lewisville. And for the people that don't know, we have a master plan on file here at the office that it's kind of like a land classification or a zoning of the lake, so to speak. It kind of determines how we're going to operate in the next, 10 to 15 years on, okay, what is this land going to be used for? So we have parkland designated, we have wildlife management land, and then we have some operations land. And then in this most recent update, we've added like some low density recreation lands to where, okay, maybe they're not best utilized as wildlife management, but maybe trails and low impact recreation type thing. That's one project that's about to be finalized within the next 6 months. We should have that final update. We just started that process for Ray Roberts. So there will be some public meetings held where people can have the opportunity to comment on the master plan update at Ray Roberts. We kind of touched on it earlier, but that the repair work going on at the dam is a big one. That's going to be an ongoing project here for several years. And that's the big one that I think we've got going on right now.
And right now they're like I said, I was out there a few times, and they're building, there's a bridge that gives them almost direct access to the dam instead of having to use semis, get on the highway, go all the way around and drop off the dirt. But that bridge can't handle the weight of these big off-road dump trucks. So they brought in, and you'll see on Facebook, they're going to be finishing up here late next week or early the week after. They brought in this prefabricated galvanized steel they call an air bridge, and it's basically like an erector set. So they're going to be assembling the bridge, put it on rollers, and then push it across and permanently install it, so that these giant off-road dump trucks can not only carry more soil, but get it there faster.
Right. And I think that railroad bridge that's there currently was built like in the mid 50s, and it just isn't rated for what we need to use it for. But that project, that dam safety repair, it's actually a $150 million project that is kind of broken down into 3 contracts. And we're in the first one right now, which is the repair of the embankment, where they're going to stabilize some of the embankment. And then the second contract is a spillway stabilization, where they're going to add some anchors to the spillway to help it better handle high flood loads. And then the third contract would be restoring the property of where they're taking the borrow pits and making those into a better habitat for the wildlife.
And there's a lot. It's not just carrying dirt out there, piling it up on the berm, and spreading some grass seed. Like they're out there. They have to move the city water lines. They have to move and install brand new instrumentation. They have to build new roads, take out old roads. It's a lot. And I don't have any engineering background. So when I think about, making the dam stronger, just put some more dirt on it. But no, there's these inclinometers, which actually they measure how much the dam is actually moving, because whether you realize it or not, there's a lot of water on the other side, and if the dam is not structured right, or there's some moving sand inside the dam, it's gonna move. So that's how they determine where the weaker spots are and where they need to shore that up, so to speak.
Right. They're going to have a collection system for that water, and that way they can monitor it. That's primarily what they're trying to do, is be able to keep better tabs on that movement of the water.
Yeah. I've had a lot of fun.
I appreciate the opportunity.
I've learned a lot. So Lewisville is Lake Lewisville Lake. Which one is it?
Lewisville Lake.
Lewisville Lake is about 45 miles northeast of Fort Worth.
Yes.
Yeah. Where is Ray Roberts?
Ray Roberts is north of Lewisville Lake.
Mm-hmm.
It's on the Elm Fork of the Trinity River. The dam is actually located between Pilot Point and Sanger, Texas. They're built to work as a system so that we can determine, if we need to make releases at Ray Roberts first or Lewisville first. It works together as a flood control system. Now, one difference in Ray Roberts, it of course is flood control as well, but its primary purpose was water supply.
Okay.
To add additional water storage so that Denton and Dallas could get that additional water.
Okay. So tell me about if somebody wanted to contact somebody from the Corps here at the Lake office, how would they get a hold of you?
They could call our main office number, which is 469-645-9100.
And that'll be in the description section below.
That's the main number here for the office, or they can get on our website and they can submit questions through there. It's a long website. You'll have to post that address.
I will. It's usace.swf.army.mil. But like I said, it'll be in the description section below.
And then, of course, you have the social media platform where people can reach out to us through that as well.
Always leave a comment on this video or any other one of the pieces of content that we post, or you could email public.affairs@usace.army.mil. And once again, that'll all be in the description box below. Well, life is better at the lake. Life is better at the lake, isn't it?
It is better at the lake.
My name is Trevor Welsh. I'm the Public Affairs Specialist at the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Fort Worth District. Rob Jordan, Lake Manager at Lewisville Lake, and Ray Roberts. And it's been our pleasure to talk to you today about why life is better at the lake. All right. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.